Greetings from North Carolina, the 12th of the original 13 colonies to join the Union, which it did on November 21st, 1789. With 8.8 million residents, it ranks 10th in population. NASCAR's official headquarters might be found in Daytona Beach, Florida, but its soul lies in the foothills of North Carolina. What began as hot rodding moonshiners outrunning the law has evolved into one of America's most popular spectator sports. The first race was run at the Charlotte Speedway in June 1949.
And over the years, the Petties have been involved ever since 1949, and we're still involved.
North Carolinians are proud of their rich and complex history. Despite being the last state to secede from the Union, North Carolina ended up sacrificing more of its citizens to the Civil War than any other Confederate state.
We furnished between 125 and 140,000 troops, far more people than we had according to the 1860 census that were eligible to vote. And out of that number, a good 40,000 of them never came home.
After the Civil War, Charlotte, North Carolina's biggest city, saw booms and busts in the cotton industry. It is now the country's second largest banking center, after New York. North Carolina, as a center of finance, dates back to the discovery of gold there, long before California. The gold boom began quietly. In 1799, a 12-year-old boy discovered a shiny, heavy rock in a creek in Cabarrus County.
The family didn't know at the time they discovered gold. They used this big nugget for a doorstop. And eventually they had it assayed and discovered it was gold. And that led to a gold rush with farmers giving up the plow and taking up shovels and picks to try and find gold on their property.
The news attracted fortune hunters from all over the world.
Within a short period of time, North Carolinians have established 56 gold mines.
When the gold played out, North Carolina returned to other resources, like its fertile coastal plain.
We're so proud to be #1 in the production of sweet potatoes.
When people talk about North Carolina and they talk about food, I would think that barbecue would be the first thing that comes into mind.
The billion-dollar hog industry may explain the first rule of Carolina cuisine. Around here, the word barbecue always means pork. North Carolina's eastern coastal region is also linked to some of America's greatest historical events. In 1903, the Wright brothers chose the remote fishing village of Kitty Hawk to test and successfully fly their airplanes. Not far from Kitty Hawk, the first English settlement in the New World was established in 1585. Sir Walter Raleigh organized and financed 3 expeditions to Roanoke Island, which was then part of Virginia.
The third attempt included men and women and children. So this was to be a permanent settlement.
In August 1587, the colony's leader, John White, returned to England for supplies.
And in that interim, between the time he leaves and heads off for England, the Armada from Spain has come. The Spanish are assaulting England, and as a result, the English crown forbids ships from leaving.
By the time White returned, the island was deserted.
There are no physical signs of conflict, no bodies in the sand.
But to this day, there is no definitive answer to what happened to the colonists.
It could be the Spanish. The Spanish claimed all of North America, and having found English settlers in North America, they may very well have wiped them out.
One theory is that because of the drought, the colonists simply wandered off and they were absorbed by various tribes.
In other words, the colonists would have moved inland and intermarried with Indians, and some Lumbees argue that they are descended from the lost colony.
Later, Jamestown settlers will be told stories of blue-eyed, blonde native peoples, and Powhatan, the chieftain of that region, the Chesapeake Bay, is going to claim to have killed them. So we don't know. That's the million-dollar question.
Eventually, colonists from Jamestown, Virginia, moved to North Carolina in search of land to grow tobacco.
And so the tobacco industry, if you will, moves south from Virginia and spreads into North Carolina. And of course, North Carolina eventually becomes the largest tobacco-producing state in the country.
Early on, a skilled cigarette roller could only make 4 cigarettes a minute. That process was revolutionized in 1880 when an 18-year-old Virginian named James Bonsack invented a cigarette-making machine that turned out 200 cigarettes per minute. Tobacco became big business. Soon, over 1/3 of all tobacco in the U.S. was grown in North Carolina.
Of course, it became a major part not only of North Carolina's economy, but became a part of the nation's culture. I mean, you can't look at a movie from the 1930s or 1940s without seeing everyone lighting up a cigarette.
In recent years, liability lawsuits, along with increased state and federal taxes on tobacco products, have challenged the tobacco industry worldwide. Even so, it remains North Carolina's #1 cash crop. February 1st, 1960, Greensboro, North Carolina was catapulted to the center of the civil rights movement when 4 black college students sat down at a whites-only lunch counter.
Of course, they were not served, and they were asked to leave.
She says, please leave. The manager, get out. The policeman, one beating his hand with a club as he walks behind them. And you can imagine yourself sitting at that lunch counter with that stick hitting the palm right behind your head, wondering, is he going to swing?
They came back the following day and days after, and other students started to join them. And not only black students joined them, but white students joined them. And so the sit-ins spread like a wildfire throughout the South because of what happened in Greensboro on February 1st, 1960.
My first year in school, I also demonstrated in sit-in movements at the university that I attended. So yeah, that was significant.
Woolworths finally agreed to desegregate on July 25th, 1960. By then, the Greensboro sit-ins had inspired similar actions in 54 cities across the South. Years later, at the premiere of a film about the Greensboro story, an unexpected question was posed to Franklin McCain, one of the original 4.
One of the students asked him, well, what would you ordered if they'd served you? And there's a big laugh because it's exactly the kind of question a 13-year-old would ask an adult. And he paused and he thought for a minute. He said, I had my eye on the pie.
Look here, I'm talking about America, sweet America.